IDIC speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, part 4 of how to strip and restore old miniatures. I'm using my 3 Dark Eldar Raiders here, which I'm also doing some conversion, making them into Ravagers. I got these from eBay. They're really badly painted, or at least some of them were, so I had to strip them down. I did all that in the first and the beginning of the second episode. I then did some plastic artwork in the second episode where I made these little side struts here, put them in the oven and bent them, etc. And then in the last video I was sorting out how to fix them onto the Raider. These are all magnetized on, and then I was doing the guys at the front and the guys sitting up in the top there. So if you're interested in seeing any of that and you haven't seen the other series of videos, and go and check them out. I'll put all the links in the description below. In this episode we're going to have a look at some magnetization. I want to magnetize the guns on the front here, and also want to magnetize the additional guns that we can have when we take them into the Ravager version. So I'm going to look at doing those, and then it will be final clean-up time of some of the extras. For example, I've got these little bits and pieces on here which are stuck on, this one broken at the back. A few little extra bits that I want to finish up at the end, and also do their bases. So hopefully this probably will be the last episode in the series, but I'll keep the video to about half an hour. If I'm not finished, there will be another one. If I am finished, then there won't be. Okay, so I'm going to set up with the next stage and I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back and I've got a brand new camera angle. Hopefully this is going to be better for you. I have the opportunity to zoom in a minute as well. So yeah, I've also had a look in my bits box, and I've managed to find these Dark Lance guns. I will zoom in right now for you so you can see them. So there you go, I've got enough for one on the front man, which has this like support section down, and enough for 2 extra gunners on the sides, so really useful. One thing to note is that this piece of plastic that's coming down here on this particular gun was really loose, almost like it was going to break. And I've solved that. It's now back to normal, and how I solved that is I just basically put a piece of super glue just on the join and I just let it dry, and the super glue just went hard, and that piece of plastic now is quite hard. So that was useful. Okay, so what we need to do now is I'm going to magnetize this gun onto the front of the Raider there. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Right, let's move these guns out of the way. I'm going to use some little magnets. I've got some 2 by 1mm magnets, and these are strength N52, which is the strongest magnets that you can get. I get my magnets from a UK supplier called Guys Magnets. I'll put a link to their website in the description below for you. Okay, so I've got my 2mm drill piece. And first of all we're going to look at drilling a hole just in the top of this gun here. Now there's not that much room to play with, to be fair, but I think we'll be able to successfully do it. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to just flatten that little area off with my knife, like so, and then I'm going to find the centre of that piece. Again, just using my knife, find the centre. I'm just going to twist it in, just make it like a little starting hole, like a little dip for that bigger drill to go into. Okay, and now I'm just going to drill out the hole just gently and carefully. Now to be fair, if the hole does like go bigger than the plastic and you end up with like a little side section of the plastic that's like come off, it's not a problem, because you're going to be putting the magnet in there with a bit of green stuff, so you can easily fill that hole up. Okay, so what happened there? Oh, the drill just slipped, that's okay. Okay, it's just slipping out of the plastic. So I'm just going to go in at a bit more of an angle now. There we go. So there's not much room there, so this is going to happen. Okay. So exactly what I said might happen has happened. So I don't know if you can see this on the camera or not, but the side of this hole has come out open, but that's absolutely fine. Like I said, we're going to put some green stuff in there anyway to get the magnet to glue. So that green stuff is going to cover up the hole. Just take that little piece of plastic out. Right, so that's that done. So now we're going to go on to the actual gun itself. Hopefully the camera's focusing. Like I said, it's a brand new camera angle. Right, so I'm going to measure where the gun goes, which just goes in there. This needs to be flattened off a little. Okay, so now I'm going to just drill a hole into that gun. There's a little bit more room here. Just try and find the central position and then drill out the hole. I always have my magnets handy so I can just check the depth of the hole. It's about perfect. Okay, so let's just check the join itself. So it looks pretty good. I would suggest that this needs to be just flattened slightly there at the front. Okay. Right, so now we're going to get some green stuff. I've already mixed up just a little bit of green stuff there. I'm going to put a touch of green stuff just in the hole here. And a touch of green stuff in the hole on the gun. Okay. So I have my little rule of thumb. I'm going to make sure that using the yellow topper, I'm going to put the magnets in the down position on the actual radar. So it will be in the up position on the gun itself. Just my sort of little rule of thumb for all of my modelling that I do, just so that I know which way the polarity is on the magnets. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to use my little file, and then I'm going to take a magnet, bearing in mind it's going to go in that way, and I'm going to put it onto the little handle, which is really useful. This is like a foam handle with the metal underneath, so it sort of sticks to there, magnetises to there, but it's quite weak, so it's easy to take off. So I'm just going to leave that there for a second. Need my super glue. Okay, so the key thing when you're using super glue and green stuff and magnets is not to put the super glue actually onto the green stuff, because the green stuff will just go rock hard and won't work very well. So you actually want to put the super glue onto the magnet. So I'm just going to dab a tiny piece of super glue onto there, push that into place like so, and then I'm going to get it flat. Now instantly that piece of green stuff which I put in there has actually covered the hole that I had, so I'm just going to quickly tidy that up while I'm here. That's absolutely perfect. There's no extra filling to be done there at all. Okay, so that's that one. And now I'm going to do the actual gun. So we've already got the green stuff in there. So this time, when the magnet goes that way on the radar, so it's got to go that way into the gun. So I'm just going to take the topper off, take a magnet off there, and then pop it onto here. We have the right way. And glue and pop it into the hole. There you go, make sure it's not at a funny angle or anything. Excellent. Right, just going to leave that to dry for a few minutes and I'll be back and we'll have another look at it. Okay, so that's a few minutes later and hopefully it should be all dried now, so let's have a quick look. So we've got our radar and our gun and it's magnetised on there very nicely. And because they're quite strong magnets, they're actually pretty strong fitting, so really happy with that. Now I don't have the other gun option in my bits box at this moment in time, the disintegrator I think it's called. I am going to magnetise these anyway, even though I don't have the other gun option, because sometime in the future I'm hoping to get the guns and then I can obviously interchange the options. So that's that bit done. So we now need to have a look at putting the extra guns on this thing, which we've got already, but how are we going to mount them? Okay, so the next stage is to add some of the guns, the Dark Lances, to this thing for when we used it in the Ravager version. I have these extra guns, just trying to work out first of all if I can just maybe mount them somewhere, maybe on the inside or on the top of there. To be fair, nowhere looks that great. I think ultimately I'd like to have a man standing there holding this gun. Now I have found some extra warriors in my bits box, which I've got. That's pretty good because I've got some of the older sculpts and these would be really useful for putting onto this particular raider because it's got the older sculpt on. So I've got some older sculpts and I've got some of the newer ones. So like this one's not on a base, for example, and then these here I've got on a base. So I first of all had a look to see if I could stand them here on a base, but there's not actually enough room, so that's not going to happen. So I think, where's that one without a base? There we go. So I think if I can have them standing on there without a base, that would be pretty cool. Obviously I'm going to have to change the gun to get these guns on there. And I'm going to have to magnetise them. Now although there are magnets already here underneath this section, it would be nice to be able to use them, but they're a bit deep through the plastic to actually work. Excuse me. And also they're on the side, they're not actually like flat in there, they're actually on the side. So putting a magnet on the top, there's just no like magnetisation point. So we're going to have to drill a hole into this platform as well. So we're going to do that. Let's start off by drilling a hole into the foot of this guy. Let's see where he's going to stand. So I think on the front foot just there seems to be quite a lot of room. So let's get my 2mm drill piece. Zoom in a bit. Right, there we go. Okay, that's about right. Right, so that is that done. Let's get a magnet in there now so it's drying. So a piece of green stuff. And then the magnet, which we know is going to go the opposite way to the topper using our little system. And a little touch of super glue. Okay. So in that. Make sure it's nice and level. Okay, so that's that done. Now on the Raider itself, we're going to have him, so let's say this one here is going to be standing like that. Make sure that it doesn't interfere with this. Yeah, so you can still stand there. So I'm going to drill the hole in that little triangle just there. I'm just going to check the depth. It's perfect. So that goes inside the hole and will be recessed as well. So let's have some more green stuff. A little bit of green stuff, a little bit of glue. And in we go. It's in, just going to push it in to the hole slightly, like I said, so it's recessed. Okay. Just going to let that dry for a bit and I'll be back. Okay, so that's dry, just gave it a few minutes to dry up, and we can now see if this magnetizes, and indeed it does. Look at that, very cool. And let's just put this little piece into place as well. There you go, there he is. Now this this Ravager, I always get confused. The Ravager has 3 gun options, so we need to magnetize another man on the other side. So the first job is to take one of these guys off of the base. So I'm going to do that by just basically ripping it off. I'm going to be obviously very gentle. So make sure you don't break anything on the model as you're doing this. Usually it's best to do it from the hill. See, this one's starting to come. So that's that one, that's that foot coming, and this one. That's that starting to come. Once you've got a bit of it coming off, you can then get the knife in there. One, 2. Okay. So that's that. So now I'm just going to flatten the bottom of his feet. Cool. Okay, and lastly we're going to obviously drill out a hole for his foot. Let's have a look at this one. I think I might have him at the back. Might be pretty cool. So let's drill out a hole in that front foot again. I won't video me doing this actually, but I'll just drill a hole in his foot and then I'll be back with the next stage. Okay, so I drilled out the hole and I've actually glued the magnet in already. Forgot to put the super glue lid on. Right. Okay, so now we want to drill out another hole into here. So I'm going to do that at the back area. Take them off. Okay, so that's in there. Let's leave that to dry. So the next thing that we need to look at is how we're going to get one of these guns here into his hand. Now it's very awkward because he's holding that gun, etc. The key thing for me is the front section of this gun actually makes it into the Dark Lance. So what I'm thinking is I might cut the front of this gun off and then have it, then cut the front of this gun off and then basically just put that gun front on the top of that gun front. So you can still have this section that he's holding, but the front section will be denoting what gun you've actually got on there. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So that's obviously going to entail cutting the front of that gun off and the front of that gun off. So let's have a go at doing that. So got my knife, I would suggest that area. Just lost the front of that gun, pinged off somewhere, but that's fine. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's just flatten it up a bit. Okay. Now I'm going to look at cutting that off. And we've lost that bit too. Right, put that onto there, and we now have a Dark Lance. Just going to clean it up. Perfect. Now, although I don't have any disintegrator cannons, I think that's what they're called, I've only got Dark Lances, I am going to magnetise these so that I can have this gun section at the front just come off, and then I can put a different gun on there when eventually, at some point, I get some of the other guns, because as I said, I don't have any at the moment, but at least I'll be prepared and ready for that. So all we need to do is drill a hole in there, drill a hole in there, insert a magnet in there, insert a magnet in there, and be job done. So a bit of green stuff in each of those little holes, so it'll be one in this one. Okay, so using my rule with the magnet topper, the man is classed as the base, so the yellow at the top for this section. That's that one, and now the opposite way for the front. Right, give that a few minutes to dry and then we'll be back. Okay, so that's a few minutes later. This is all dried up and it is magnetizing very nicely indeed onto the front of that gun, and his foot of course is now going to be dry as well, so we can pop him onto the Raider, and there he is standing on there with his Dark Lance. So really happy with that little job. Of course that's just the first one, so I now need to do that for some of the others, and I do have some metal guns as well, so what I'll do is I'll do the plastic ones first, and then I'll come back and we'll do the metal ones afterwards. Okay, so I've pretty much done all of those. I'm just moving on to the last sections, like I said, which are these metal guns, which aren't going to be too much different, except obviously the metal is slightly harder to work with, so rather than being able to cut that section off with a knife, I'm going to have to go in with my pliers here. So, well, not pliers, but clippers. So I'm going to go in and cut it with the clippers. Like so. And then to flatten it down, I'm going to use my file. And then once I've filed it down, again drill a hole using the little pin vise. Will take slightly more work because obviously we're going into metal rather than plastic, but still very doable. I don't think I'm going to record the rest of this. So basically, yeah, drill the hole out so it's deep enough to put the magnet in there, and Bob's your uncle. Okay, so that's all the bits and pieces all magnetised up. Finished the magnets on the actual boards of the Raiders, Ravagers themselves. I just need to go in with just a little bit of green stuff just to cover the magnet that's on that actual board, but that's not too much of an issue. And then on the men themselves, I've magnetised the gun and their feet, so they're all ready to go. Now, having said that, I did get all of those little bits from my bits box. So they haven't necessarily been cleaned up, so I need to go in and just clean up any mould lines that may be there. Once that's done, I'll come back and show you them actually standing on the Ravagers themselves, and then we'll have a look at the next stage. Right, so that's all done. So I went in, just scraped off any of the mould lines that were there. I did in the end have to strip a couple of the models, in particular these old warriors, because they were absolutely covered in paint. But I did that, and then on the little magnet, just in there, I've just covered it with a little bit of green stuff and just tidied it up so it looks like one of the little diamonds there. Very easy to do. So just magnetise him back on, and that is it. So that is that section all done, and I'm really happy how they're looking. Now the video's run to about half an hour, so I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to do one more episode just to do the final pieces. So I want to work out what I'm going to do with the front sections of these, and also the underslung section, because they're all a bit different. One of them doesn't have it. I need to work out the bases, and also on this one what I'm going to do about these sections here where this rear section here is broken, so I need to sort that out. So still a little bit more work to do, just the finishing touches really now. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching as always. Watch out for the final part where I'll have these vehicles all finished. Thanks for watching.